Today I'm going to talk about impulse buying, which I'll be honest, I have struggled with a lot this year because one of my triggers, which I'll talk about this morning, is my mood and my anxiety. And if I'm feeling really down or anxious about something, I typically then want to buy something to make me feel better. It's that instant gratification, isn't it? So I've really struggled this past year not to impulse buying. I think a lot of people have been the same, just with being indoors a lot and being a little bit bored on some occasions, and then you've still got the online shopping available to you, and yeah, and then it happens. So I think this is quite a good topic. I mean, we're all starting to come out of lockdown now. Hopefully that'll continue. But I think some habits may have formed over the past year that may continue. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. So let me know if you're on live. My computer's doing that really annoying thing where it's not showing me the comments again. So comment away, and then hopefully I'll be able to see them. And then if not, on and afterwards, and just make sure that I've answered everything. But say hi if you're able to watch me live. If you're on later, just put #replay. It's always nice to see who's able to come back and watch the videos I do. So let's dive in. So in the moment, impulse buying might not actually seem like a big deal, especially when it's a small purchase, say £2-3 or something like that. But actually, if you do a lot of impulse buying, and especially a lot of smaller impulse buying, it can really add up and it drains your bank account when you don't expect it. But also it then results in kind of clutter in your home that you might not need, or you actually didn't really want. You just were fulfilling a need at that moment in time. So this morning, what I want to share with you is just some tips for you to learn how to stop that impulse buying and shop more intentionally instead. And that made a really big difference for me. I used to be a very big impulse buyer, and that resulted in a lot of clutter in my house. But as I made this transition into living more intentionally and more slowly, I changed my shopping habits, and it actually made a huge difference. And I ended up, I give myself a pay rise essentially, because I had more money in my bank account, which was lovely, and I wasn't bringing so much junk into my house as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. I do occasionally buy some things and I'm just like a couple of weeks later, why did I buy that? But it's about learning, noticing your triggers, and working out whether you should buy things or not, and just questioning whether it is the right thing to do. So I'll just define impulse purchases first. But basically, impulse purchases, put it in simple terms, are things that you buy that you weren't planning to buy until you saw them initially. In a shop, on the website. So it can go for both ways. It could be online shopping as well. In fact, it's probably worse with online shopping. Let's be honest, we're on social media and things like that, and then an advert will come up, you're like, that's interesting, and go down a rabbit hole and looking for things. So, and as I say, I'll be honest, we've all made big impulse purchases. I certainly have over my years. Over the past year, with COVID happening and just struggling a little bit mentally, I have made some impulse purchases as well. So it's not a case of you decide to change and suddenly everything is easy and you'll never impulse buy again. It's about making the decision every time you have that urge. And we've all made impulse purchases, every single one of us, whether it be big or small, whether it be 50p or whether it be for £500. So it's something that we all do. We live in an age of consumerism. We get targeted ads constantly. it is just the way of being. We're constantly bombarded with marketing to try and get us to buy something, so it is very difficult to try and push that back. And typically it does feel good in the moment. That is exactly what the marketing teams are wanting you to do. They'll promote things and tell you you need to look and feel and do certain things to feel good. So then you'll go, oh, I want to feel that, or I want to look like that. You'll buy it, and you might get that feel good moment. But usually that feel good moment fades quite fast, and then typically it leaves you in a bit of a cycle of wanting to buy something new again because that feeling has gone, and you want to get that feeling back. It's a bit like adrenaline. It's like adrenaline rush, really. And it is scientifically proven that you get a rush whenever you're buying things. So it can be quite addictive. I've got the lovely tea this morning. This is peach orange baobab and manuka honey. It's lovely, very nice. I can recommend it. Um, So yeah, and that's exactly what marketeers and advertising firms are good at. They entice you to buy in what they're selling. It's hard to resist, very hard. It's not impossible, which is what I want to talk to you about this morning. But I used to work in these companies. I used to work for P&G. I used to work for Unilever. Worked very closely with the marketing teams. I know exactly the tricks of them trying to get you to purchase things. And a lot of the time, it is instant gratification that's not sustained. It's not something that will last a long time. Then you'll end up wanting to buy something else in the future. And being intentional with your shopping doesn't mean that you're not going to buy anything ever again. I think a lot of people might think that when I'm talking about this, I might be advocating a minimalist lifestyle where you only have 50 items in your home and you can't go above that. It's not the case. That's certainly not how I live. But it's a case of it's that saying I think I mentioned in the last video about the bath water, and there's no point in you trying to get the bath water out of the bath when the tap's still on. So if you can't work out your shopping habits and when you might be buying things unnecessarily, that adds to the clutter while you're trying to declutter. So it can be quite a vicious cycle. So what it really is just you doing your best as much as you can to get really clear on what you want or you need to buy and stick with it, and just don't get pulled into making these impulse purchases that you're going to later regret, because it's either causing clutter in your home or you've wasted on money on something that you don't use. So my first tips, I'm going to go down each of them. So number one is have clear financial goals and make a budget. So this is the thing that helped me initially when I first started it, because as I go down, it gets a little bit um, more, well, not difficult, but it just becomes a little bit harder to make these changes. But with me, I value money, how much I have, and how much I can use on experiences. I'm not despite me being a hoarder, I'm not materialistic. So I don't put a lot of value into the things that I own other than kind of emotional value, but like sort like being how I perceive myself or anything like that. And actually I prefer spending my money on memories and experiences and things. So for me it was really easy to have a financial goal for a purpose of something like creating an experience. So say I'm trying to save money for a holiday, have that in mind. And that's really a really good way for you to set a clear financial goal. It might be that you want to pay off some credit cards. It might be that you don't want to spend more than X amount a month, so you've got some money to go out for meal at the end of your month before you get paid. And it just reminds you to think twice before you spend the money. So you'll go, right, I'm about to spend £50 on something. Is that worth it, or would I rather put £50 into my holiday fund? And it's just that motivation for you to meet your financial goals and avoid spending on those impulse purchases. It makes it so much easier to say no to impulse purchases because you will be directing the money where you want to go. If you've got nowhere for that money to go, it's quite easy for you to just go, well, I'll just spend it on this because I quite fancy it. But if you go, oh God, if I buy this, that means I'll have X amount less to put into what I actually want to spend my money on. So that is the way that I got started and made it so much easier for me, was to set myself a goal, and I can't remember what my goal was at the time, but it was a cap on how much I wanted to spend. I put a couple of apps on my phone to help me track my spending. And it's that word gamify. I gamified it for myself to see that I could get away with living with that amount of money spending, meaning I had X amount to put into my savings or towards a holiday. And it really it made it much more of a motivational thing for me, and made it easier to say no. So that's number one. Give yourself a goal or a budget that you need to stick to and try and gamify it and track it. Number two is pause before you purchase. Now, this can sometimes be easier than done, but it's actually really powerful. So I call it purchase pause. So whenever you go to buy something, just stop. And that helps you make the right decision. So give yourself some time, be more thoughtful, be more intentional with your purchases, and just simply wait before you buy anything. So if you see something in your newsfeed and you're like, oh, that's interesting, I might buy that. And normally you would go straight through to Amazon, do the one swipe buy, and it'll be coming to you tomorrow. It's all very fast, isn't it? Whereas you go, right, okay, what you can do is put it into your add to wish list. You can create wish lists on Amazon. Just add it to your list so you've still got the link to it. You can come back to it. And then just wait. Wait 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, and wait until you buy it. And if you really, really want it, you'll remember it. And I do that a lot, actually. I'll see things, I'm like, I'll put it in my wish list. And then I go and visit my wish list, say maybe once every month. And I look down and I'm like, I don't really want these. And then I just delete them from my wish list again. But I give myself that pause. I stop myself before I do that one swipe click. I just leave it in the wish list area. So if I do want to buy it, and I do remember it, and I think actually that would be quite useful, I can go back to it and I can buy it immediately because I've kept the correct link to it. But 9 times out of 10, I put it in that wish list, I forget I've even got it in there, and then it ends up getting deleted. So that's my little hack for online. Again, with things when you're out and about, before you just pick things up, just stop, ask yourself, and even if it's for like 1 minute, just think, do I need it? Do I want it? Is this something I'm going to make use of? Is there something else I could use? Give yourself a couple of minutes. And then even what I sometimes do is put things down, walk around the shop, get some other things, and then if I still think of it at the end, I'll typically then go back and get it. But if not, it usually gets forgotten about, as usual. So that's number two. Number three is pay attention to your shopping habits and your shopping patterns. So what you really want to do is just look for trends and what it is that drives you to impulse buying. So for most of it, it's emotions, and just as I alluded to there, we've been in a very emotional past 12 to 18 months, and it has led to us probably doing more online shopping than we normally would have done. And I've certainly done that the past year. I've been trying to make myself feel better with having poor health and everything like that, and being very anxious about what's going on. And I have probably purchased things more than I would have normally done. But just keep a watch out in what is it that triggers you to buy. Is it because you've had a bad day at work and you think, oh God, I need something to treat myself? Or is it something that you're bored? So you've got nothing to do at the weekend and you think, oh, I'll just go to the shops, and then that results in you then buying things when you're out and about and you don't know really what else to do with yourself. So just notice what emotions drive you to your impulse purchases. Just really pay attention when you buy stuff. What is it that you're feeling? and look for patterns. It might be certain times of day. For me, it tends to be the evening when I'm winding down and I'm just kind of watching the TV on the night time with my husband. And usually it's when I'm feeling, as I say, a bit anxious or a bit down. So those are my triggers, and I know fine well that if I'm feeling like that, I've got a higher chance of making impulse purchases. So typically I'll just leave my phone somewhere and then I won't be playing on Amazon or something. But just make sure that you're aware of what it is that makes you buy, and it's easier for you to avoid those triggers. And it'll make it easier for you to kind of place a reason for about, like, I know why I'm looking to think about buying this, because I'm feeling a bit crap. And then that helps again for you to say no to things because you know you're doing it for an emotional reason. Then number 4 is buy new hobbies and activities. So I kind of alluded it to in the last one there. If one of your triggers is that you get bored at the weekend, so you go out to your local shopping mall or something like that, shopping centre, and then you go out and you feel really triggered to buy things because you're bored and it's just something to do. Try doing new activities, try not going out shopping. Look at something that you can do, have a hobby that's not going to involve you draining your bank account every weekend, and try and find some different things to do other than shopping. And don't be afraid to try some new and different things. Like at the weekends now, we used to do quite a bit of shopping. We like just go to the local shopping centres. Whereas now, I mean, it's easier now that we've got kids, but we'll go out and we'll be doing things with the kids, taking them to dance school, things like that, and we'll be going out for nice walks with the dogs. And typically, we'll fill our weekend with stuff that doesn't necessarily involve us going out to the shops, because typically, as well, it's difficult for kids if they see things and like, oh, I want this, mummy, and then it's easier to get pulled into buying things when you're out and about. So try and find some new things to do. Number 5 is use a list when you're shopping. I love a list. Who doesn't love a list? But when you need to go shopping, because we all need to, let's be honest, we can't just stay indoors and not go out to the shops. That would be a silly suggestion for me to make. But when you do go to the shops and you go and just make a list of what things you need to do and try to stick to it as much as possible. Now, I must be honest, when you go to places like Home Bargains and B&M, it's really hard to not buy things. You're like, oh, that's nice and it's cheap, and it's like, oh. But try and stick to the list of what you need and only buy what is on your list, so you know that when you're going out there, you're buying it for a purpose. It's because you need it, you ran out of it, or you're going to be using something in the future. And if it's not on your list, just take a pause before you buy it, and just say, right, am I just buying this because I'm here, or am I actually going to make use of it? Again, there's that purchase pause thing as well. So all of these are kind of interlinked. Then the last one is just question yourself when you're buying it. And when you're buying it, question yourself why you're buying it. So this kind of lumps in with the purchase pause. So take that purchase pause, then start to question yourself before you buy it. So what you want to do here is just try to figure out why you're making the purchase. So some of the questions you could ask yourself would be, do you really need it? Do you love it? Is it something you're like, my goodness, this would really be amazing for X, Y, and Z? And it's got a real purpose to it. Could it be something that you could use, something that you've already got? Is it something that you could borrow that you're not necessarily going to use all the time? So you might buy a tool for a certain thing that you need to do in the home. Do you need to buy it, or is it something that you could just ask your neighbour, see if they've got it and you could borrow it when you need it? Ask yourself where you're going to keep it. Is it got a definite home that I could store it in the house, or is it going to be one of those things that just gets left on the table? And just ask yourself these things as just trying to decipher the purpose of it. If it's something that you really need, if it's something that you've got a purpose for it, but that is fine. But you need to work out what it is that's motivating you to buy it. Like, did you know you wanted it before you saw it, or is it completely something that you just saw and you're like, oh God, I really need that, and it's never entered your mind before? So basically, I'll just run through each of those 6 things for you as well. So number 1, was have clear financial goals, make a budget that really motivates you to try and not spend that money on unexpected things, but towards the thing that you've got a goal for. Number 2 is pause before you purchase. So make sure you do that with all of your things that might not be on the list that is coming up. Number 3, pay attention to your shopping patterns and habits. Understand what it is that triggers you to buy things impulsively. Number 4 is find new hobbies and activities that you don't involve going out to shops all the time. Number 5 is use a list when you're shopping, and try and make sure that you stick to that. And if you find something that is not on your list, take that purchase pause from number 2 and then ask yourself some questions from number 6, which is question what you're buying and why you're buying it. Find out what it is that's motivating you to buy it and put it in your basket or your trolley. So those 6 things are the kind of things that really helped me get started, to buy a lot less. And it was like I was turning off that bath water, and then I could really make headway on getting that bath water out of the bath and really make a difference of how much clutter was in my home. So let me know if impulse buying is something that you struggle with and how you manage it. I'd love to hear in the comments. But just don't try and encourage yourself to buy something if you don't need it, because just remind yourself of the consequences if it's something that you're just going to have to end up decluttering in a year's time. So just question yourself why you're buying it, and buy it if you really need it and you really want it. But anything between that, you don't need it. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you've got any questions. And again, if you've got any tips you want to share to the group as well, I'd love to hear. But other than that, I will, as I say, I won't be back next Monday because I'm on holiday, but I'll be back at the Monday after that. But I'm going to be in and out of the group, chatting with you all anyway, but I will not see you live next week. But have a lovely rest of your Monday, and I will speak to you soon. Take care. Bye bye.